Hi, Mickey Garand here with Mickey's Corner. This is a new channel here on YouTube where I'll be describing things, breaking things apart. We're going to explore them together. And in the following video is the construction of the laboratory that I've created here behind you. Hey, what up, what up, what up? Okay, so today we're going to do a little project. I am going to build, in this corner over here, a new recording studio type area. It's going to be my workshop. I'm going to be doing videos on everything, really. I'm building the walls right now, and I got them all laid out. They're going to stand up against the outsides so I can add siding. I can add, stuff I need to hang shelving. It'll look better. So I'm just gonna do that and probably montage this. I will montage. I prefer to use screws. I know it's a weird thing for me, but I've always liked screws a little better. It'd be quicker to use a nail gun. Pop, pop, pop. But I like screws because ultimately, if I want to change something, I can just take the screws out. That's my thing. It's my thing. So, in a minute, you're probably gonna ask why I chose to lay the 2x4s on the flat. When I put the wall up, it'll make sense. Normally these 2x4s in a standard home construction are 16 inches apart. I put these on 24. Also, they're laying flat. Normally, they'd be standing upright. And the reason why I did that, because they're gonna be laying right against that metal. That red metal that you can see in the background. And I'm gonna use self-tapping screws to secure these 2x4s right to the metal. If I would have turned them sideways, it would have caused two problems. One would have been trying to develop a way to secure the 2x4s to that red metal. And the other is, I would have lost another 1.5 inches of possible space. It would have furred out another 1.5 inches further. And ultimately, that means you gotta lose a little bit of space. Now for the fun part. We're gonna make a slight adjustment for better fitting. Up in that corner, there's some foam. This whole building is spray foamed. Closed cell spray foam. Really makes a huge difference. Matter of fact, it's about 35 degrees outside today, and with no climate control, it's about 65 degrees in here. So the foam is fantastic. It does a great job. But in this particular case, I need to get it out of there so that I'll have a nice tight fit up against that red iron. So you're gonna love how I do this. Machete. Machete will do the job. And I got an outlet over here. This is an outlet. I'm gonna have to move that. It's gonna line up directly in on the stud. So no big. I can handle that. Wow, it's warmed up quite a bit out here. It's in here already. I had to take the sweatshirt off. I'm gonna try take some clamps, my proper level, and try to do something with this. It's far enough out that eventually over time, if I'm out a 1/2 inch on this end, I'll be at, a 1/2 inch out on the other end. And then when I go to line things up, like the siding, the sheeting, anything I wanna, it's always gonna be a little bit off. and eventually it'll compound into a bigger problem where eventually I may find myself 1.5 inches out somewhere. So I'm just gonna go ahead and grab the proper tools. I know my clamps aren't very big, but I'll make them work. So what I have here is, like I was saying before, these are self-tapping. I don't know if you can see that properly. It's a self-tapping made specifically to drill through metal. Now these are supposed to be metal on metal, but because it's got this nice flange, I guess you could call it, on the end here, that will grab the wood, and I think this should hold it well enough to where it's not gonna move. I'll put, you know, 1 or 2 in each area, and then at the bottom, once I get all that secured at the bottom, I'm actually gonna use tap cons, which are concrete screws. And I'll put one about every 24 inches across the bottom to secure that bottom in place. So here's the problem. I need to get this outlet to sit flush with the outside of my siding, whatever it's going to be. So instead of leaving it buried in the wall, what I'm going to do is I found some old scrap 2x4 laying around. I will place the scrap 2x4 on the beam, tapping a couple of these self-tappers here and here, holding that piece of wood in place. Then I can move this outlet out and screw it down in its new position. All right, here's the update. We are currently at the halfway point, and what we've done here, as a quick recap before we do the siding. Okay, we've got our stud wall up, and we've got our outlets moved. The walls are done. Time to put on the siding, so I can finally get around to fixing that tractor for you guys out there, and eventually we'll get to that van, and there'll be constant updates on all this. When I start working on the tractor here, I gotta take the motor and put the motor back in. This is a John Deere 950 from like 1982, and when I got it, it wasn't running, and it was actually really not running. The van is actually in better shape than it looks. It's just been parked for a really long time. I bought that van, I don't know, 1999 in Colorado, and I drove it back here to Texas. And I drove it around for about a year, and well, Texas has got fast roads, and that thing does about 65 downhill. Great for around little small communities if you're just trying to run to the local Walmart or grocery store of some type. They're great. 45, 55 miles an hour, they'll do them all day long. So yeah, it's starting to become a very old classic vehicle, and yeah, I'm gonna take it right down to the frame and do a total frame off restoration on that, and I'll be documenting that too as well as we go. But okay, so we're at the halfway point now, and we're gonna continue on. We're gonna put on the siding, the 1/2-inch plywood, and on the top here, I'm thinking of going with a 1/2-inch decorative type of material that has a little bit of a design to it. And I'll put some shelving up here too, so. All right. Let me show you what we got. So, this is what we got. This is the finished product. And as you can see, it's very flush with the outside. It's a very tight. I actually didn't need to make it that tight, but I kind of had a reason for it, because the cover plates I chose to use originally are these metal cover plates. And I wanted to make sure that when I put the cover plates on, that I didn't have any gap around it. But I think that'll work fine. We're gonna go ahead and call that one good, and move on to the next one. Okay, now that we've got them all finished, I just wanted to give you an idea of the look of the finished product. It's nice and clean. You don't see any gap around the outside edge. And once this is painted, this will be painted white. Once this is all painted white, that's really gonna look sharp. I think it'll have a nice contrast with that shiny. It almost looks like chrome, and it's really heavy duty cover plate made for these, for construction or industrial, commercial type environments. So what do you think? I mean, I think it came out pretty nice. Okay, so what I've decided to do at this point is I'm gonna use staples. I was gonna go with screws, but I have a nice 1.5 inch long staple. And I think once I pin this, it'll make a much smaller hole. So when time comes to conceal it, caulk it, paint it, it'll be a much cleaner look than just some big giant screw holding it together. I don't want to have my seams line up on my wall. So kind of like the sheetrock issue, I want to break up the seams. So I have to rip a piece of plywood, and here's where the dilemma may come in. I don't have a table saw. I could probably borrow one, but how do I cut a nice straight line? So what I've come up with is I made my marks where I wanted to be at 4 feet. Then I took my circular saw and I measured. I'll show you, I got one here. I measured the width from the outside to the blade, and I have 1 3/8. So it's as simple as this, really. I measure my 4 foot mark, and then, because this is 1 3/8 wide, I measure back 1 3/8 and make a mark. Now I have this nice 4 foot level, which you could use a 2x4, anything you need to use to get by. And this is gonna be my rip gauge. I'm not sure what the proper terminology for that is, but basically now I'll be able to take my saw and put it right up against this straight edge. And that is gonna keep my blade nice and straight across my piece of wood. And that should give me a really true straight cut. Okay, one wall done. Well, we're at the point now where we're gonna do some paint. And what we've decided to do here is, because of its plywood, we're gonna go ahead and put 2 coats of primer on this. And I really think it's gonna need it. I've already put 1 coat on, and as you can see from that plywood is really soaking up that paint. And we're gonna probably have to put 2 coats of finish on it as well. We have it's a latex paint in white. It's just gonna be white. But I think we're coming along pretty well. We'll keep you posted. When you're getting ready to paint, if it takes you, just as a general rule, if you can paint a whole area in 2 hours, you better spend 2 hours prepping the area first. If you don't do that, then you're gonna get paint everywhere. So you gotta tape in, even like your outlets, your boxes, your lanterns, anything that could be attached to the ceiling that you don't wanna get paint on. And just take the time. It's a pain in the butt. No one likes to do it. But the prep work is just as important as the paint itself. Now it's time to start building the countertops. I'm just gonna make them out of 2x4 and plywood. I'm trying to build it just like a regular cabinet. So it'll have a toe kick under it, so you don't smash your toes. And it's gonna have a 1 inch reveal here for your countertop, which will be 3/4 inch plywood. And I'm putting my bracing, I'm gonna be putting my bracing every 24 inches across here going across to the wall. And then across the front, the vertical bracing that's holding it up in the front, I'm gonna put every 48 inches. The next time you're in your kitchen, go look at your cabinets in your kitchen. They all have what's called a toe kick. And it's amazing because you can walk right up to your counter and stand basically, because this will be countertop, and you can stand very close to your countertop and have clearance, right? The way I designed this with this toe kick is, as you can see, you put your toe underneath. Well, here's the problem that I was facing. I was trying to figure out how to solve this problem where, because of the way I built this, I got my 2x4 here. This is gonna be my support for my bottom shelf. Well, this is 1.5 inches right here. So once I lay my plywood over the top of this, you're gonna have an 1.5 inch gap right underneath here, right? And it's all open here. See, you can just, all open. So what do you do about something like that? It's gonna be an interstate highway for mice in the winter. They'll be able to run right underneath here and go up and over and underneath where this concrete is. All this is gonna be covered with my bottom shelf. And all this underneath here was gonna be exposed for mice to be able to run into. So what I've done is, see, here it is right here. And it's tacked in the front with staples. I'm using staples. It's that run right there. You can see that little piece of plywood right there. And it was just leftover material sitting there not doing anything. So I cut those to fit 3 3/4 inches. I could have gone 4 inches. The measurements don't really matter because if you ever decide to take on a project like this, right, you're gonna have your own dimensions. So when you're doing those dimensions and figuring all this up, all I can tell you is draw this out on paper, because this doesn't really look all that complicated for somebody with a little bit of experience in construction. But where you get hurt, and what I've discovered is where you get hurt the most is you start forgetting numbers. If you try to just build this off the top of your head, and you start forgetting numbers, you start forgetting where you left off, and you could burn a lot of material like that. Trial and error, you know, cutting boards, they're too short, well, you can't use them. And also it's very easy if you don't draw this out on a piece of paper, that it's very easy to miscalculate material, how much you're actually gonna need. And most of the time, people underestimate how much material they're gonna need. This toe kick issue, I really didn't plan on that. And you know, I tried my best to draw this out really well and make sure I understood what I was getting into. I just couldn't see that problem until now. I think just from spending a little bit of time figuring this out, anybody could do this. You don't have to be some type of huge construction guru to figure this out. Just apply a little logic and just start putting pencil to paper and drawing out what you want to have. Take examples from things that you see around you, like your kitchen cabinets. Pull some measurements on your kitchen cabinets. Open the doors, look inside, see how it's braced, how they put them together, and try to visualize that. Even if you have to do it, draw one board at a time, and then go pull another measurement, then draw another board, right? And eventually you'll come up with something that resembles what you want for cabinets. And not to mention, to be honest with you, with Google, man, you can go on Google and just type in how to build kitchen cabinets, right? And they're gonna show you all the dimensions, all the measurements, and then you could just copy that. You don't have to try to figure this out on your own. 1. Thank you, and I hope you appreciated the video that you just watched. Please follow and subscribe if you like this content. And in the future, we're going to expand and create new things and explore new opportunities and territories. And there's quite a lot of projects ahead. I look forward to seeing you again, and thank you.